Hey gamers, this is a compilation of multiple compilations of my random facts to fall asleep to videos over the past few days. So if you want to skip to a particular section, like I got a Zelda, a Xenoblade, a Mario section, timestamps will be in the description below. But yeah, let's just get right into the video, shall we? Here's some more Xenoblade facts. The Japanese name for Xenoblade 1, Future Connected, is simply a connected future, though the Japanese name for Xenoblade 3, Future Redeemed, is actually a bit more different, being a new future, due to their strenuous relationship in Xenoblade X, until the player completes the affinity mission Blitzkrieg, in which the two make up. Pog and Fry cannot be put into a party together at all. Something often missed in Xenoblade 2 is that the coins have a depiction of the world tree on them if you zoom in up close. This exact same depiction can be seen in the audience chamber in the Indolin Sanctum. It seems to be a very likely indication that Indol controls the money/economy of all rest. Many cases of blood in Xenoblade 1 were actually toned down for Definitive Edition. The textures were made to be less crimson and muter in tone. For what purpose is unknown. It should be noted, however, that Metalface's claw being drenched in Fiora's blood was not censored. In fact, you could argue it looks brighter than the original Wii version of the game. In Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition, there actually exists an unused setting in its files that can be added back into the menu through modifying the game. While it does nothing in the final build of the game, it would have allowed players to disable the animations for visions in battle. In Puzzle Swap on the 3DS Street Pass Mi Plaza, there is a puzzle for Xenoblade 1 available. When completed, this puzzle shows Ricky alongside two other Nopon. Sulk and Fiora make an appearance as well if you move the camera to the right. In the indie video game Terraria, a reference to Xenoblade can be seen in a painting. The painting is titled Terrablade Chronicles and depicts Terraria's Terrablade stuck in a field of grass, much like Xenoblade's Monado. The image of the painting is small and it may be hard to see though. The game Warframe has a reference to the Monado from Xenoblade 1. It is the skin for the game's Heavy Blade, titled Heavy Blade Mithria. The skin is a Tenogen skin, which means it was fan submitted then added to the game officially. The original creator of the skin was a user named Lukinu_U. In the indie RPG Lunar Lux, direct references to the Xenoblade series can be found. First, there is a painting that looks like a Xenoblade 3 term marker that is titled The Endless Now. Second, in the space station section of the game, a scientist named Klaus can be found. Ryan is the only playable character in the first Xenoblade game whose family never makes any sort of physical appearance throughout the events of the game. Even Sulk's parents make an appearance in a short flashback. Though Ryan actually does mention his parents in a heart-to-heart with Ricky, saying that he has no family to go back to after the battle is done. In Xenoblade 3, there is an unused affinity chart portrait for the Nopon Archsage. Technically, the Nopon Archsage is unable to be on the affinity chart in every other game he appears in, unless you want to count the Nopon Half-Sage, who joins the community in Torna the Golden Country. So it's unknown if this was actually ever going to be used or just a placeholder. As of 2024, there has never been a posable figure of a male Xenoblade character. The only times male characters have received figures are via the amiibo line or 2D art printed on acrylic stands. The Upa enemy type's name may be derived from the Japanese word Wooper Looper or Upa Rupa, which is a marketing term created in Japan that started a fad for raising pet salamanders. Wooper Loopers in specific are axolotls. According to Nintendo, on March 20th, 2025, Xenoblade X Definitive Edition will come to the Nintendo Switch, meaning that every single Xenoblade game will be available on one single console. The red scale seen in some shots of the Xenoblade X Definitive Edition trailer seems to be a recreation of the one from the reveal trailer of the original game back in E3 2013. The character that appears at the end next to Lao in Xenoblade X was actually going to have a much bigger role in the game. Their name is Black Knight, and they were actually supposed to be the main antagonist of the entire game, according to the official Xenoblade X art book, but was cut due to time constraints, thus being only put at the end. There are multiple theories as to who this character is, such as Elma's partner who saved the White Whale, which she mentions in some parts of the game, including in a short story released only in Japan before the game's Japanese release date. It's very likely that with Xenoblade X Definitive Edition's release, the Black Knight will play a larger role in the game overall, due to them lowering their hood and speaking to Lao in a extended version of the ending scene shown in the trailer for the re-release. The digital version of Xenoblade X on the Wii U took up around 23 gigabytes of storage. According to the official page for Xenoblade X Definitive Edition, however, the new version on the Switch will be significantly smaller, at around 50 gigabytes of storage. Poppy's QT form in Xenoblade 2 has a DLC costume based on Melia from Xenoblade 1. The costume is called Antique Princess QT and can be earned in the Land of Challenge. In a Xenoblade 2 art book, Cosmos Re is revealed to stand for Cosmos Refrain. It also states that she was built by Sion Izuki and Alan Ridgely, some of the main characters from Xenosaga who helped build that version of Cosmos. In Xenoblade 2's Japanese version, humans are referred to as a kanji that can mean humans, but it specifically uses katakana instead of the more traditional kanji. The only character who refers to them with kanji properly is Klaus, implied only he remembers the true meaning of the word human. Xenoblade 2's rare blade, Cassandra's Japanese name is Kasane, which is a common Japanese given name, but it is also a pun on the word Kasanaru, which means to repeat many times over, a play on the repetitive nature of her bad luck. In Xenoblade X on the Wii U, Celica has an unused victory line in which she interacts with Lao. However, by the time Celica can even join the party, Lao has already been permanently locked out as a party member for the rest of the game. Here is the unused voice line, which is only available in English.
Lao, Rock tells me he enjoyed watching you at target practice.
Bose and Lao are the only recruitable characters in Xenoblade X on the Wii U that can wield sniper rifles, with Bose being DLC, at least in the Japanese version of the game. Lao was the only base game recruit to do so. Across every Xeno game, the English dub actor with the most individual characters played is Adam Howden, with Sulk, Sansa, Klaus, a custom voice in Xenoblade X, and the Xenoblade 3 art shades. This pairs very nicely with the fact that he is also the English dub actor to appear in the most Xeno entries, at least if you're not counting reused voice clips. As Fiora's VA, Corina Reeves has direct appearances in Xenoblade 1 and 2, a custom voice in Xenoblade X as well, but voice clips of her are reused from Xenoblade 1 to 3 towards the end, compared to new lines from Adam Howden. Cross, your custom main character in Xenoblade X, has no canon age, although when offered alcohol in certain side quests, the player can select to say they are a minor and cannot drink any. Given how the mimsums work, the protagonist could be literally almost any age. A detail many don't notice on the Cloud Sea of Allrest stage in Smash Ultimate is that Bridget actually receives a slight redesign like Pyra and Mithra did. Her dress opening section is no longer a mess that allows you to see through to her skin, but a silky cover instead. The protagonist of Xenoblade X has never actually received an official name in-game. The commonly used name, Cross, comes from the Japanese Nintendo Direct footage that had it as the name of the character. The name in itself comes from the game's Japanese name, Xenoblade Cross. One of the new characters revealed for Xenoblade X Definitive Edition seems to be named Nell Neal, at least if you translate her name directly to English from Japanese, and is actually a scrap character from the original Xenoblade X, though she looks a little bit different from her original design. It seems Nintendo and Monolith Soft fully intend to finally finish off some of the story beats it could include in the original Wii U version of the game. Xenoblade X was one of a couple of Wii U games to come in a black case instead of a blue one in Japan. Black cases for Wii, Wii U, and 3DS games were intended to denote more mature games. However, many mature games still came in the standard cases anyway. This trend was also attempted in the US with a small handful of games, but did not catch on. However, concept art from Xenoblade X's The Secret secret file Art of Mirror book reveals that Arena was originally going to have longer and saggier hair than she ended up having in the final game. If you played Xenoblade 1, you may recall collecting an item called Ha 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 in Alchemoth. According to its description in-game, the one who named it was Ricky. It also states it as some sort of fluffy white creature. Its Japanese name translates to fluff fluff fluffy. In Xenoblade 3, Irma's eye color is different when in her console outfit. She normally has yellow eyes, but they are blue when she transforms into Mobius eyes. This is true both in-game and in concept art. Every other Mobius has the same eye color whether they are in their human form or in their Mobius form. There's actually a discrepancy if a Geon is a rare blade or a legendary blade in Xenoblade 2. You see, in the end credits, a Geon is listed alongside the rare blades of the game instead of the legendary blades, despite being recruitable during the main story like all other legendary blades. But his stats more identify with being a rare blade, along with the fact that he also doesn't have a unique weapon like most other legendary blades do, although Gomark shares this similarity as well. He was also designed by a guest artist unlike other legendary blades, but he is specific to one driver, initially being Morag, like all legendary blades. It's also worth pointing out that in the Blade album of the game, he is directly between the legendary and rare blades. In 2020, Lao's Japanese voice actor Keiji Fujara tragically passed away from cancer at the age of 55. In Xenoblade X Definitive Edition, he'll be keeping all of his original lines intact, even though Lao has a prominent role in the new story content. His new lines will be recorded by Takanori Hisino instead. This does not affect Lao's English voice, as he is voiced by Matthew Mercer in the original release of the game and is returning for the new story content. The tyrants in Xenoblade X were actually known as Overeds in the original Japanese version of the game. Alternatively, however, their name could also be translated as Obeyed in English, which is a type of morning love song about lovers parting at dawn. A programmer poking around in Xenoblade X Definitive Edition has discovered references to an unused 60 FPS mode in the game's code. You see, the Switch modder Masgrato R shared a screenshot of the code to Twitter on March 19th. He noted that this 60 FPS mode is implemented only partly because it causes weird issues when activated, such as gameplay being rendered every second frame. So even though it outputs 60 FPS, you in fact only get 30 usable frames. Masgrato R also added, when asked about the issues presented by the higher frame rate, he said, cutscenes sometimes are working fine, sometimes some objects are jittering like hard-coded to be 30 FPS, and sometimes it's again every second frame render. While it's entirely possible this code is just left over of the developers of Monolith Soft trying to get 60 FPS working on the original Switch, the Switch 2 specs suggested by leaks should be more than enough to handle such a frame rate boost if they decide to implement it in the future. The Wii U version of Xenoblade X used to offer free downloadable high-speed data loading packs on the eShop that would make the game perform better. There were 4 such packs intended for physical copies of the game, and they totaled over 10 gigabytes in size. These are included in Xenoblade X Definitive Edition by default physically, because cartridges are faster than discs. In fact, they weren't needed for the digital version of the game because discs are slower than downloading the game on an internal storage or a USB drive, but cartridges are very comparable to them. In Xenoblade X on the Wii U, Tatsu was originally going to have soul voices like the normal party members did. In fact, several of them made it as far as being fully recorded in Japanese. They, however, go entirely unused in-game and cannot even be found in the Western version's files. They sadly still go unused on the game's definitive edition on Switch. The Pawn Specters in Xenoblade Future Connected are instead called the Nopongers in Japanese. This name mimics the naming conventions of Super Sentai teams such as the Power Rangers franchise, which often take a word and combine it with Jer from the word Ranger. The rare blades Dahlia and Ursula from Xenoblade 2 were designed by Riza Abata, most well known for her work on Macross Frontier, although she's known for other cult classics as well, such as Viper, ETR, Cyber Team in Akihabara, and AKB0048. Azami is a unique case of a rare blade that gets to keep their name unchanged in the English localization of Xenoblade 2. Azami as a name refers to thistle plants, specifically Cercia flowers. In Mario Maker 1, you can unlock a soul costume for Mario to wear randomly by either clearing a 100 Mario challenge on normal or harder, or by using a soul amiibo. Pressing up on the D-pad makes him pull out the Monado and face the screen, and the course clear theme is replaced by the tune it plays when discovering a secret area in Xenoblade 1. Although Soul's voice, for some reason, in every region is the one he has in the Japanese dub, voiced by Shintaro Azumua. One specific line he says is, "I'll do it," when you first collect the mystery mushroom, which is the power-up that gives access to all amiibo costumes. The Lost Nopon is a side quest in Xenoblade 1 that can be received from Gorogu in the Traveler's Rest area on Biotis Lake. Its Japanese name is quite a bit more biting towards the Nopon you have to find, Batu, as it basically translates to the troublesome Nopon with no sense of direction. Some of the divisions in Xenoblade X actually have different names in the original Japanese version of the game, such as Harriers being called Avalanche and Reclaimers being called Testament. In fact, the division's name in itself is actually called Unions in the Japanese version as well. The Xeno series are named after the Greek root word xenos, which means foreign or stranger. Sometimes the word, though, could even mean of another world. For example, Gears of another world, Saga of another world, and Blade of another world. This definition directly relates to all of the games in the series, such as the mechs in Xenogears being from another world, Xenosaga 1 through 3, and Xenoblade X being all about not being on Earth anymore. And the swords in the rest of the Xenoblade series tend to be godly, thus from another world from the humans in the games. Although Xenoblade X can also fall into the regular definition of Xenos as well, since the game also deals with interacting with multiple alien races. Hobart enemies in Xenoblade 1, which can only be found in the second visit to Prison Island, are instead called Hobart or Hobato in the Japanese version of the game. The reason for this change is not clear, but relatively minor nonetheless. The Japanese name of Elysium from Xenoblade 2 is Lakarin. The literal meaning of this name is comfort garden, and the word is often used to refer to the Garden of Eden from the Bible in Japan, although it can also simply be translated as the word paradise as well. It should be noted, however, that Elysium is still the name of the place in the Japanese official soundtrack of the game, as the second track in the OST is called Elysium in the Blue Sky. The LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga game actually has a multi-layered reference to the Xenoblade series. The Easter egg can be found in Jabba's palace during the Return of the Jedi section of the game. Inside the area is a disco party, and one of the NPCs there, the disco director, is voiced by Adam Howden, who is the English voice actor for Sulk in the Xenoblade series, which is funny considering the voice actor for Malos in Xenoblade 2, David Menken, is also in the game, being the voice of Luke Skywalker. But anyway, talking to the NPC will cause him to say, "Now this is a party, I'm really feeling it," which is a reference to Sulk's catchphrase in Smash Bros. A developer on the Skywalker Saga game took to the Xenoblade subreddit to explain how they managed to get the joke in the game, saying, "I worked on the Skywalker Saga, and when I heard that Adam Howden would be providing his voice to the game, I tried to work in a Xenoblade reference somewhere. I managed to get this one in on the last puzzle I worked on. I wasn't in the booth when he was recording, but I had an email from the script editor at the time. He said that Adam was initially unsure about the line, but after being told that it was a Xenoblade reference, he nailed it." Now, like I said, although the "I'm really feeling it" line is often referred to as Sulk's catchphrase in general, it didn't actually originate from Xenoblade, as it instead comes from Sulk's Smash Bros. Wii U reveal trailer, with Sulk uttering the line when he's introduced. Following that reveal trailer, it quickly became a meme within the community, and was even included as one of Sulk's taunts in Smash. The phrase has also been referenced in other Xenoblade games since, and has now become a part of Sulk's overall identity. In Xenoblade X, one of New LA's locations, Melville Street, has a different name in Japan, being instead called Moby Street. Both actually serve as a reference to the novel Moby Dick, which Xenoblade X has many references to, such as the name of the white whale. The Japanese name is a reference to the book's titular whale, while the English name refers to the book's author, Herman Melville. Smash Ultimate Spirit Battle for Ryan has the player fighting an orange costume Ryu in a stamina HP battle. The Ryu likes to taunt as a reference to Ryan's talent art to draw aggro in Xenoblade 1. The other condition for the Ryu battle, super armor but slow movement, are also references to one of Ryan's arts that he has access to in the original game, being the guard Sif. Here here are some more Splatoon facts. According to the Art of Splatoon 1 book, Octarians are not able to reproduce on their own and are thus created by cutting off a tentacle from a host. Their intelligence and rank are linked to how many limbs they possess, with high-class Octarians possessing more limbs. It was later confirmed, however, that only common Octarians are cut from tentacles. This is further supported by Massup of Despair, who is an Octoling, being stated to have parents who are famous actors. The plurality of the term parents implies that he was birthed through sexual reproduction instead of asexual. The amount of time an Octo stamp lies on its face after attacking is different in every campaign that it appears in the Splatoon series. It's 2 seconds in Octo Valley, 1 second in Octo Canyon, 6 seconds in Octo Expansion, and 3 seconds in Return of the Mammalians. Upon closer examination, the Octo Hurler enemy exhibits some quite odd behaviors. For example, the Octo Hurler can spit out Rolinium regardless of whether it sees the player or not. Because of this, the battle beat theme is not heard in the background, implying that the player is not being seen by any enemies at this time. When the player gets behind the enemy, it gets confused. However, instead of going into an idle state afterwards, the enemy's animation plays on loop with a question mark appearing above the Octo Hurler's head every time the animation reaches its starting point. During that state, the battle beat can be heard, implying that the player is currently being seen by the enemy. Hiding in ink while the Octo Hurler is in the confused state causes it to eventually return to its Rolinium spitting state and the battle beat ceases. In the Bluey episode The Pool, the water gun Bluey's father Bandit is carrying in the beginning of the episode, there's an almost exact resemblance to the Splattershot from the Splatoon series. It's very possible this is a direct reference, as there are other video game references in the series, such as in the episode The Sleepover having a dog doll look like Undertale's Sans, which was later confirmed to actually be a reference to him, as the storyboarder of the episode loved Undertale. The Salmonids and the Octarians have a trade agreement with each other, in which the Salmonids provide power eggs used as energy sources in exchange for Octarian weapons and machinery, such as gussers and the vehicles of slamming lids. However, the Salmonids do not trade their golden eggs, as they consider them too precious. In the arenas for both the regular and sanitized versions of the Octo Samurai boss, it is possible to hear some unnerving ambient sounds in the background before the battle commences. These are the same sounds that can be heard after defeating DJ Octavio in Splatoon 1. In Splatoon 3, the hitbox which triggers the Goldie's slap animation is slightly larger than its damage hitbox. This can be demonstrated best on the idle Goldie in the tutorial for Salmon Run. If a player positions themselves in a certain way, the Goldie will indefinitely attempt to slap the player but deal no damage or knockback. According to the official Japanese Splatoon Twitter account, the bolts from Tri-Stringer and Wellstring are caused by the ink being cooled/frozen, even though nothing in either weapon's design alludes to this. They appear to have an icy texture and are probably meant to be popsicles. According to Salmon Run's employee handbook in Splatoon 3, long ago the Mud Mouse was thought to be a spirit who haunted the depths of the Splatland seas. Thanks to the courage of youths who started throwing bombs in their mouths, however, we know they're just Salmonids who got stuck in a pipe coated in mud. It seems that the Grand Festival Splatfest in Splatoon 3 was heavily inspired by Burning Man. It's a big real-life yearly event that takes place in Black Rock City, Nevada, where thousands of people go out into the desert to create and celebrate art. It closes with burning down the built-up centerpiece, and many people wear the same types of outfits that the idols wear in the Splatfest. In Splatoon 2's Octo Expansion, Captain Cuddlefist seems to be a bit racist towards Octarians. However, in an interview, Hisashi Nagami explained that although a legendary hero in the Great Turf War, Cuddlefist had always wanted peace between all species, and that Cuddlefist patrols the Octarian world to stop Octarians causing trouble and to help Octos in need. This explanation makes even more sense when you find out that all the racist stuff Cuddlefist said in Octo Expansion doesn't exist in the original Japanese version of the DLC. If a player uses the up signal on the D-pad while wielding a Slosser in any Splatoon game, instead of pumping their weapon up and down in the air like with most other weapons. The character will instead swing the slosser in a circle to their side a few times while they're saying the command. Although the Fizzy Bomb sub-weapon was introduced in version 4.1.0 in Splatoon 2, it was actually found by data mining as early as version 3.1.0, functional but without a model. It had the internal codename Hayo, which is a common placeholder name in Japanese computer programming. The Squid Beacon has the second highest ink consumption of all sub-weapons to the Splatoon series, with it consuming 75% of all ink, right behind the Seeker, which is a Splatoon 1 exclusive sub-weapon which consumes 80% of ink. In fact, in Splatoon 1, it is not possible to place 2 Squid Beacons without the need to refill ink, even when equipped with as much ink saver sub as possible. In Splatoon 1 and 2, Splat Bombs appear paired with every single special weapon in the games, except for one, the Killer Whale in Splatoon 1 and the Teta Missiles in Splatoon 2, at least technically speaking if you want to count all the bomb specials together. The Teta Missile launcher appears to be a pair of modified soda crates, as hinted by the logo, which kinda looks like the Coca-Cola brand logo and can be found on vending machines around Ingopolis Square. This is further hinted at by the fact that the projectiles that the Teta Missile shoots look like soda bottles of some sort. In Splatoon 2, the Octosod replica is the only weapon besides the Splattersod Jr. that can be obtained by players at level 1, due to it being unlockable after beating Octo Expansion without needing to buy it from Sheldon. This also means the Octosod replica can be obtained before the weapon it is an alternate skin of, being the Pentatech Splattersod, which you could buy from Sheldon when you hit level 4. The visual effects of the ink armor in Splatoon 2 are very similar to that of the Ubercharge from Team Fortress 2, as both cover players that are affected with their team color in a metallic scene, as well as making the eyes of any affected players glow. Unlike most weapons with a visible path of travel, the Reef Slider in Splatoon 3 cannot be aimed before firing. It is immediately fired in the direction of the camera upon pressing the R stick. Additionally, both the path and the explosion radius can be seen by other players. When jumping down from the spawn drone at the beginning of a match in Splatoon 3, a player can jump to an ineligible surface for the recall point of the Zipcaster. If they activate the Zipcaster, the first eligible surface they stand on will have the recall point placed there. This allows the player to reach spots only possible with the Zipcaster while it not being active. The Rainmaker is considered a special weapon in the series' internal code. This technically means it is the only special weapon to appear in all 3 games in the series, at least at this point. During both the Spinal Phase and Inner Agent 3 fights in Octo Expansion, Agent 3 is able to use multiple different special weapons despite only using one main weapon, and is even able to use them consecutively. This is explained by Marina in the Spinal Phase fight, saying that Agent 3 had removed their limiter, implying that Inklings and Octolings normally have something that restricts their special weapon usage, likely due to laws and regulations in universe, such as what was revealed in Splatoon 2's Sunken Scroll 11. While the typical appearance of the Swarming Logendo's enemy in Splatoon 3's Side Order DLC is that of a small fist, they are actually able to ascend certain surfaces by generating a spine-like column from under their bodies, while they're relatively far away from the player. This is most readably observed in the Steamroller.floor level. This has very little effect on gameplay as they retract themselves as they get closer to the player, but this does make them a bit more easier to see at a distance compared to other enemies. Black Belly Skate Park is the only stage to appear in Splatoon 1 and 2 that has not seen Rainmaker in rotation for the longest amount of time due to its old layout, which allowed Rainmaker carriers to easily score a knockout within the first minute of a match consistently. It was finally brought back after adjustments for version 4.3.0 in Splatoon 2, however. In Splatoon 3, aside from the monthly challenge and some Japanese exclusive challenges, Too Many Trizukas is the only challenge with game modifiers to appear in more than one game mode, that being Tower Control and Clan Blitz. The Grand Splatlands Bowl is the only stage in Splatoon 3 made specifically for a Splatfest, and the first stage made for a Splatfest since MC Pritch's his diaries during Chaos vs. Order in Splatoon 2. Horde Backroll was the first stage to be released after the launch of Splatoon 1. It is also the first returning stage to release in Splatoon 2 alongside Moray Towers. In Splatoon 1, despite Captain Cuttlefish saying they must be submerged to be defeated, Octoballs can also be defeated by knocking them off of ledges. Accelerondo is a musical term that indicates that a piece of music is to be played at an increasing speed. This references the whirling Accelerondo enemy's speed when spinning towards the player. In Splatoon 3's Side Order DLC, it is actually possible to hit and send the Mothership boss in Salmon Run back with long-range weapons when it is heading toward the egg basket before it even manages to latch onto the basket itself. An example of this is the Hydra Splatling when fully charged and timed well. This can be done in both Splatoon 2 and 3. In Splatoon 3, the version name of DJ Octavio's mech, the Octobot King L3Gs, resembles the word legs and is a reference to the fact that this version of the mech has legs while the prior versions did not, as well as the recurring theme of the number 3 in the game itself. In Splatoon 3's Side Order DLC, the parallel canon bosses use distorted voice clips from Inklings, both male and female. The only exception is the initial boss cutscene, where we'll always use the female voice clips. In Splatoon 3, the same fog effect seen sometimes in Salmon Run waves is also reused in the Foggy Notion challenge. Any individual King Salmonid defeated during the Triumvirate in Splatoon 3 still counts towards badge progress for the total number of splats for that type of King Salmonid. And just like other extra waves, you need to be the one to have delivered the final blow for it to count towards the badge progress. In both Splatoon 2's and 3's Salmon Run mode, Grizzlers can be slowly pushed around by squid bagging against them while they are hiding under their shields. Despite being an employee of Kamiko Co. and by extension Commander Tartar in Splatoon 2's Octo Expansion DLC, the producer of the Splatoon series, Masashi Nagami, has stated that Sea Cucumber is not a bad guy, only faithful to his duties and job. In Splatoon 3's Side Order DLC, the orange-colored ink the player is required to fight Marina with, along with the color of the building's structure of the tutorial run, makes the ink somewhat resemble that of the gold color used for Team Chaos in the Chaos vs. Order Splatfest in Splatoon 2. Whether or not this was intentional is unknown, although Marina wearing her outfit from the aforementioned Splatfest would imply that it is. The final boss of Splatoon 3's Side Order DLC, Overlorder, has 13 different boss titles that can be shown at the start of its battle. The first time it is fought after the credits, its title is the One Slight Catch. Advancing to the next title in the next run only when the player uses a palette different to that of their current run. For example, after fighting the second Restoration with a new palette, players will face History 3-peats in the next run, even if they are using a repeated palette, but they will not face the next title, being the Forsaken Remnant, until after defeating History 3-peats using a new palette. The first 10 rematch titles for the final boss Overlorder in Splatoon 3's Side Order DLC have a numerical motif that matches the rematch number. You see, the initial title that you see when you first face the boss is the Mag is Strain of Order. However, the first rematch title is the One Slight Catch. Second rematch title is the Second Restoration. Third title is History 3-peats. Fourth is the Forsaken Remnant. Fifth rematch title is Pent Up Frustration, which comes from the word penta meaning 5. Sixth is Back to Basics. Seventh rematch title is Accept No Substitutes. Eighth rematch title is Increasingly Desperate. Ninth rematch is Saturn 9 Squater. And the 10th is Tentacle Troublemaker. The last two titles don't follow this order. However, with the 11th rematch title being Last Order, and the final rematch title after clearing with all palettes is Obstructive Ordeal. In Splatoon 2, data mining revealed that the Carbon Roller Deco weapon had its kit changed multiple times, with the latest change being to change its sub-weapon, the Sprinklers, to Burst Bombs, right before release in June 1st of 2018, as to not match the combination on the Light Tetra Duelist weapon, which were released 2 months later. Rusty Son has a strange inconsistency throughout the Splatoon series. You see in most external media, such as in the Splatnet 3 section of the Nintendo Switch Online app, Son's crusty coating is only a jacket, not a form of deep frying. However, according to a developer interview, a Squid Research Labs report, and the Splatoon 1 art book, it states that he deep fries himself in a batter bath to achieve this appearance. He needs to repeat this bath every day to keep the batter crispy. In Splatoon 2, the Inquiry Splat Dualies shares the same sub and special weapon as the regular Splat Dualies did during the Splatoon 2 global test fire. Spike's design is based on the phrase street urchin, which refers to homeless children who make their living on the streets of large cities. Spike himself is a literal street urchin, a sea urchin who makes his living working in the back alleys of Igapolis, and according to the official art book of Splatoon 1, is never seen going home and just hanging around. Unlike Gelonzo and Jeffonzo before him, Gelafleur's attire does not change depending on the day of the week. This is true even in Splatoon 3, as when Gelonzo and Jeffonzo returned in the Splatoon 3 expansion pass, they were given new outfits to rotate between that were different from their Splatoon 1 and 2 outfits, while Gelafleur's outfit still stays the same throughout the week. In Splatoon 3, although the English text of Sunken Scroll 14 seems to suggest that Nails, the small snail that is always next to Gnarly Eddie, is a pond snail, the Japanese version of the scroll and his Japanese name overall make it clear that he is in fact a river snail. The appearance and name of the Cycle King jersey item in the Splatoon series both seem to be a reference to the King of the Mountains jersey awarded in the Tour de France real-life event. Headspace, the shop run by Flo at Crayman in Splatoon 2 and 3, seems to be inspired by Lust Limited, a British cosmetics retailer in real life, given the blackboard writing, bath bombs, and creams that can be spotted in the background of the store, which are similar products sold by Lust. Atlantis, the shop run by Harmony in Splatoon 3, is the only store in the entire series that is seen with customers other than the player, as several jellyfish can be seen browsing the background if the store is accessed from Inkopolis Plaza and Inkopolis Square. The name of Gelafleur's clothing shop, Man-O Wardrobe, was actually teased in the Splatoon 3 release date trailer in April of 2022 before the store was officially revealed in the August 2022 Splatoon 3 Direct. It can be seen on the Schlosser Player's splash tag title. Gnarly Eddie and Nail's shop, Not Couture, has a stack of dust cloud caps and sea foam caps that can be seen on the shelf in the background on the right. They have actually been there since Splatoon 3 was first released in September of 2022, despite both items only being added in the Fresh Season 2023 catalog. In Splatoon 3, there is a portable toilet in the Splatsville Square near the construction site, specifically one side of a ramp leading up to the garden where the Table Turf Battle Dojo is located. If the player stands next to it for roughly a minute, they will hear a male Octoling groan, presumably from inside. There's also a possibility the player might hear the Octoling say "help me" as well. If the player attempts to purchase zoos at Bis Silla Fresh shop in Splatoon 2 or 3 that they cannot afford, Bisk reacts by foaming a lot more in his mouth than he usually does. He also does this continuously until he back out of his dialogue. The musical group that Harmony belongs to, Crispy Chips, is called ABXY in Japan, which plays homage to the buttons on many Nintendo controllers. Their song names also differ between English and Japanese, such as favoring more retro and game-based names in Japan. For example, Selfie, Split and Splat, Blitzit, Wave Prism, Slopping Spree, and No Quarters are named that way in English, while in Japan they are called Friendless, Quick Start, Chip Damage, Full Battery, Happy Sprite, and Counter Stop, respectively. This trend first started in Splatoon 1 on the Wii U, where the musical group first debuted in the 2.0 updates and has continued when they were brought back for the sequels like in Splatoon 2's 3.0 update and Splatoon 3's Chill Season 2023 update. It is mentioned in Hakura Walker, which is a book of official art from the Octo expansion and Splatoon 2 post-release content that was released in Japan on the 28th of December 2018, that Iso Padre's Octo Trooper Plus is something that he always takes with him. It is stated in the Splatoon 1 and 2 official soundtracks that the song Now or Never, performed by many different musical groups in the franchise such as Squid Squad, Squid Sisters, Wet Floor, Off the Hook, Seaside, and Deep Cut, was originally made by the Squid Squad band. However, Baker of the Seaside band claims that they are the originators of the song in the Splatoon 3 official soundtrack, and that Squid Squad stole it from them before they could release it. What's even more interesting thing is that one of the members of Squid Squad, Achia, according to Baker, went to school with him and is described as selfish and with the temperament of a prodigy, despite not knowing anything about music theory, and simply makes songs with flashy guitar riffs. So it's very possible that Baker is telling the truth. In the Splatoon series, the band with the most members, at least if you're not counting Now or Never 7, which is a mashup of the Squid Sisters, Deep Cut, and Off the Hook, is Yoko and the Gold Bazookas, featuring 7 members, despite only 3 being visible in the album artwork. It's worth noting, however, that while the band has the most confirmed members, some bands like Octoplus have an unknown number of members in them. One of the bands in Splatoon 1, Squid Squad, consisted of 4 members. Before Splatoon 2 takes place, however, they disbanded, with the bassist Squid going on to form Despair with a new Octolink bandmate. In Splatoon 3, the remaining 3 members of Squid Squad decide to form Front Row, with a person only ever credited under the name 004 Clam. The Octolink beatsmith of the band Despair, Masa, who in Japan is called Warabi, has been to 20 different countries in a single year, according to Hakura Walker, which is the Japanese exclusive art book for Splatoon 2. This goes to show that even after the water level rises and humans being wiped out, there are still at least 20 countries that still exist in the Splatoon series, which leaves the door wide open for the potential to be even more confirmed in the future. For reference, the real world has around 200 countries today. The band Riot Act, which first appeared for Splatoon 3's Fresh Season 2024, was formed by the guitarist of the band Seaside, Kiki. However, this isn't to say that they switched bands, as in their own words, I can make it work in my own way, implying that they are still a member of Seaside. The reason why Riot Act was formed was apparently to pursue music that was more complex and showy than Seaside, but may have also been formed to throw shade at Seaside itself, particularly one member, as Kiki invited Fin Feeder, who is from the band Bottom Feeders, for one of Seaside's songs called No Plan Survives. When Baker, one of the other band members from Seaside, said they wanted to perform with Finn, as if to say Kiki was attempting to one-up him. The composer of the band H2O, Lionel, is notoriously famous for being uncompromising when it comes to songwriting, never wanting to give up the particulars, and is ride or die with his choices. The music he writes is based on recorded voice memos of him humming that he offloads to his childhood friend and fellow band member Corey, who is on the receiving end of Lionel's endless stream of overly detailed requests, but they most often than not bite their tongue and do it anyway. All this information can be found in the official Splatoon 3 art book, which was translated from Japanese into English, which is why Lionel's name is Sima and Corey's is Nagore on there. The pianist and vocalist of the Splatoon 1 band High Tide era, Taka, isn't artistically motivated to create music, but rather the desire being fawned over, and in reality being really superficial even if he doesn't show it on the surface, which can possibly explain High Tide era's absence in Splatoon 2 and 3, minus some slight cameos such as in other bands' albums, as they realized it was too much work to handle. All of this information can be found in the Splatoon 2 Japan exclusive Hakura Walker art book, and specifically on Chippy Chips and High Tide era shared page, which was translated from Japanese into English. In universe, the bands Ink Theory and Bottom Feeders actually share a rivalry with each other due to both of them using classical instruments, along with the fact they both debuted around the same time. In Splatoon 2's 2.0.0 update, their rivalry was shown off in full when the two bands attended the legendary Seaman Live performance at Zap Square in Inkeda/Greater Inkopolis, where they attracted a very large audience together unintentionally. Their burning rivalry caused the energy of the two bands to continuously and rapidly rise at that event, so perhaps the mix of the two bands worked out surprisingly well for each other. The band Bottom Feeders has a vocalist called Tango Feeder who has an unusual way of singing. You see, he rubs the string-like organs that make up his body against each other, which causes friction leading to vibrations, which then becomes an audible sound. In addition to this, he can sing with his feet, which is something he seems to be very pleased to know, even if what he writes is mediocre at best. This information can be found in Splatoon 2's Hakura Walker art book, which is exclusive to Japan, which is why the last name for Tango and the other band members are different in the book, as the name Feeder is only in the English version. Here's some more Zelda facts. From Smash Melee to Smash 4, Kirby obtains the headdress young Zelda from Ocarina of Time wears when he copies Zelda's abilities, making Zelda's copied appearance the only one of Kirby's hats not based on a character's appearance in Smash Bros. This hat design was later changed in Smash Ultimate, though, to more match Zelda's redesign in the game. At the time of the release of the original Wind Waker on the GameCube, Octoroks had appeared in every game in the Zelda series, which is referenced in the game's figurine description with the line winner of the Perfect Attendance Award. However, as Octoroks were absent from Twilight Princess, this was changed to series exemplary enemy in the HD version of the game. The promotional artwork of Link being captured by Morphia in Ocarina of Time shows him losing his Master Sword, but this does not happen during the actual battle. The only time Link ever loses his Master Sword in the game is during the first phase of the final battle with Ganon, at least until Zelda points to where his Master Sword is and the fire barrier between them vanishes. In both the GameCube and HD version of Wind Waker, if Link were to grab a Stalfos club while they are regenerating, the enemy will notice it being stolen and will instead use their left arm as a nunchuck. They even yell "Aww" as they approach and attack Link. The act by default is probably a reference to the legendary martial artist Bruce Lee. When Link is struck and drops the club, or if he lets go of it, the enemy will regain it and resume their normal way of fighting. In Ocarina of Time, there is an unused animation of Link using the fairy bow in a crouching position. Although it was cut for the N64 game for unknown reasons, it would later be reused for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. In the Gravity Falls episode Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons, the fairy that Grunkle Stam slaps on his back that says, "Hey, look, listen," is a reference to Link's fairy companion Navi from Ocarina of Time, who frequently says those words during gameplay. During the fight with Malice Nadra in Breath of the Wild, the dragon herself makes no effort to attack Link directly. This may mean that she still has some control over her body and mind despite her corruption. Though not confirmed, some have speculated that the whip snake found in Spirit Tracks is actually based on the rope snake from Mother 3. You see, the whip is red, just like the item in Mother 3, which is an unusual color for a snake. The whip snake is also used to grapple onto poles so that Link can cross gaps, just like the rope snake. There are some differences though, such as the eyes and the fact that the whip snake has fangs. While parts of the back of the Hylian shield are made with wood in most of the games, including Ocarina of Time, most of the artwork for the game depicts the shield made entirely of metal. So many of the early NES games had a consistent black box design on them, and according to a Nintendo Consumer Electronics Show hit in 1987, games like Zelda 1 and Punch-Out were gonna have the same design early on. In Skyward Sword, it is implied by Zelda's father, Gapora, that the color of the Knight Academy's tunics changes every year, suggesting Link's traditional tunic may have been selected green at random, thus starting a trend for future Links to carry on the tradition of wearing the color. In Twilight Princess, before the battle with the mini-boss Death Sword begins, in the Arbiter Grounds dungeon, its sword is embedded in the floor with a myriad of ropes adorned with a fuda, which are a type of talisman that are generally used by the Shinto, a Japanese religion, for danger protection. In the original version of Twilight Princess on the Wii and GameCube, if Link opens a chest containing rupees with a value of 20 or more inside and does not have sufficient room in his wallet, the rupees are put back in the chest and can be retrieved at a later time. In every other Zelda game, including Twilight Princess HD, however, the surplus rupees are lost. In Breath of the Wild, a glitch can be done using remote bombs, wherein one can catapult Link by forcing one bomb to be launched into his back, causing him to fly in that direction at extreme speeds. This is called a bomb impact launch or wind bomb, and is used liberally as a method of high-speed travel by speedrunners. A fan of Majora's Mask recently discovered a scrap feature that incorporates the N64 microphone. You see, the N64 had a few different accessories over the years. However, one of the more notable controllers was the N64 microphone and voice recognition unit. This controller can be plugged into the console's 4th-player controller port, allowing players to speak into the microphone and perform commands in-game. When Majora's Mask was one of the few games that originally was going to implement this accessory. In a video posted by Garo on YouTube, they discussed how Majora's Mask code contains support for the N64's voice recognition system, but it is hidden and can be re-enabled. The game has 5 axes that correspond to 5 voice commands, which are all in Japanese. If a player says, say cheese, a picture will be taken. When next to a cow, saying milk will act as if the player used Epona's song, filling up a milk bottle. Saying how many hours remain next to a gospel stone makes it act as if Link has hit it with his sword, telling the player how much time is left before the moon falls. Saying wake up lets players skip the Sonata of Awakening to wake the scrubs up. And lastly, saying Haya while riding Epona in the game has the player use one of the characters to speed up. There's also a 6th command program in called sit, which is likely meant to be used with the dogs in-game, but the command as is doesn't interact with anything. As well as being based on the mythical Cyclops, Hinoxes also share similarities with Japanese Oni. Their loincloths and upturned fangs in particular are similar to the traditional appearance of an Oni, and the red and blue Hinoxes in Link's Awakening may also be a reference to the tradition of a red and blue Oni pair. Kolgura is the only story boss of Tears of the Kingdom in which Link does not need any weapons to damage it. By flying above Kolgura and waiting for it to initiate its spike attack, Link can dive down through the ice on its back to instantly shatter it once it is exposed. The word Alice has actually appeared in a couple of other Zelda games before Breath of the Wild used it as the rock enemy's name, such as in Oracle of Ages with the Talus Lake and Peaks, and in Four Swords with Talus Cave. Rivali's final line before flying off to Meadow in the second recovered memory of Breath of the Wild was actually different between versions. You see, in the Japanese version of the game, he merely laughed derisively as he flew away, while in the English version, he instead sarcastically bids Link good luck in stealing away the darkness as he flies off. In Breath of the Wild, if Link speaks to Balsan while not wearing any armor that covers his torso, he will become excited and call him Perky, which means cheerful and lively. Demise bears a strong resemblance to Akuma from Capcom's Street Fighter series, especially how he looks in Street Fighter 5 and 6 in multiple ways, such as both are powerful beings with a visibly muscular structure with red eyes, flaming hair, and have cold personalities intent on brutally taking down anything that gets in their way. This is likely due to the fact that both of the characters seem to be based on the same Japanese deity called the Neo, which signifies the birth and death of all things. Technically, Link's first ever companion is Sprite from the Legend of Zelda 1989 cartoon, as he predates Navi's appearance in Ocarina of Time by almost 10 years. The scar on King Dorfian's head in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom came about after a fight with a guardian stalker that made its way towards Sora's domain during the Great Calamity that he faced head-on. This is revealed in one of the stone monuments scattered throughout the Lanayru Great Spring. In Link's Awakening, Bow Wow telling Link to dig in certain spots while barking, which indicates where a secret sea cell is hidden, may actually be a reference to the Japanese folktale of Hadasaka Jisan, where an old couple's dog tells its owners to dig in a certain spot while barking, which leads to them uncovering gold coins. According to a Polygon article interview, the Ascend ability in Tears of the Kingdom was originally used for debug testing, but the developers had so much fun using it that they decided to implement it into the final game. Kite shields are one of the permanently missable items in Breath of the Wild. You see, only 4 of them exist in the main game, 2 of which can be found in chests regularly, 1 in a chest exclusive to Master Mode, and the last one from Selmy's Sealed Surfing Challenge. If all of which are destroyed, no more kite shields can be obtained in the game, at least without modding. In Tears of the Kingdom, however, they changed it so that it can respawn via random chests dropped by likes after defeating them. In Tears of the Kingdom, if you connect all the 32 shrines of light in the sky that you can see in the map screen, they will form a shape similar to that of a secret stone, which are the main collectibles of the game, though it is unknown if this is intentional by the developers or not. According to its description in Breath of the Wild, the climbing set features no slip technology, despite the fact that they do not prevent Link from slipping when climbing in rain, even when fully upgraded by a great fairy. This description is still present in Tears of the Kingdom, despite the Froggy set being created for the game, which actually does stop Link from slipping in the rain when fully upgraded by a great fairy. In A Link Between Worlds worlds, if the player talks to the bee guy while carrying a fairy in a bottle, he will think that it is a new type of bee and become extremely excited. Once realizing it is a fairy, however, he will lose all interest in it. In the original version of Ocarina of Time for the N64, in both in-game and outside material, the character Fredo has blue eyes, similar to all the other Kokiri in the game. However, in Ocarina of Time 3D, she instead has a slightly more unique eye color, with the upper halves of her irises being a blue bonnet, and the lower halves being a light indigo. This is strange since every other Kokiri's eye color stayed the same in the remake. Contrary to popular belief, despite his clear similarity to the hero of time, in many ways, Kefii from Majora's Mask is not a direct counterpart to Link, as he is not physically identical to the main protagonist. Therefore, he is one of the few residents of Termina who does not have a parallel individual from Hyrule in Ocarina of Time, at least in the same sense as the other residents. Ironically though, Link's actual counterpart in A Link Between Worlds from Lorule, Ravio, shares a connection with Kefii in that both are associated with the color violet rather than green. However, their personalities are the complete opposite, as Ravio is fearful while Kefii and Link are both courageous. Each of the 7 monks that appear after you finish Trial of the Sword in Breath of the Wild have posed their arms in a way that actually mimics the poses of the 7 sages when they were sealing Ganon in Ocarina of Time. In the original Legend of Zelda for the NES, Oracle of Seasons and Ages, and even the beta version of Ocarina of Time, have the Wallmaster enemy only have 4 fingers compared to every other game they appear in, such as the Minas Cap and the final version of Ocarina of Time, where they have 5. Both woodlat boars and red tusk boars, which are creatures in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, actually closely resemble real-life wild boars, which are a species of large tusked pigs native to the forests of Europe, Asia, and parts of North Africa. In Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, there are red jelly-like enemies called bits that appear in a few places, which give 2 XP in almost every version of the game. However, in the Japanese version of the game, more bits appear in the location planes, along with the fact that they just give 1 experience rather than 2 overall, no matter where you encounter them in the game. Here's some more Mario facts. In every version of Mario Kart Wii, everyone is American by default. Although this can't be seen in-game, the layout file for the entries in the rankings uses a early version of the US flag as a placeholder image, which is replaced with the player's correct flag after being initialized. Development of Yoshi's Island briefly went through a baby wizard phase, whereby the developers experimented with replacing Baby Mario with a new baby wizard character. The character's animations were so far in development that some of the surviving Baby Wizard graphics have been inserted into the final game by modders. Because the sword introductory area in Mario Wonder becomes inaccessible after Bowser becomes Castle Bowser, a total of 18 coins can no longer be collected if the player chooses to avoid them. There's an unused image found in the data of Yoshi's story that depicts Baby Mario with Yoshi, just like in Yoshi's Island. It's important to note that Baby Mario does not appear in the actual game, and because Yoshi's story was known as Yoshi's Island 64 during early development, it is possible that his inclusion was at some point considered. In Mario Kart Wii, whenever Baby Daisy looks back while backing up her vehicle, one of her eyes will be much more pixelated than the other. She is the only character this happens to. This probably happens because her look back eye texture lacks the other eye, having a transparent block instead. Baby Peach, on the other hand, has the opposite problem, as one of her irises looks very slightly more detailed than the other. Development files from the 2020 Nintendo Giga Leak revealed that Super Mario Kart used to contain grass that doesn't slow you down, which defeats the entire purpose of off-road grass in a racing game. The developers clearly had a low opinion of it, calling it unnecessarily in the code before removing it in the final release. In Mario Kart Double Dash, races were supposed to have feelings. A mysterious, unfinished feeling manager would assign feelings to the characters during the race, though the ultimate intended purpose of this functionality is unknown. Diddy Kong Racing contains a variety of actual anti-piracy measures. If the game detects that a certain address in the memory was tampered with, for example, it will make the racer's head spin around, likely with the aim of upsetting the player. In Mario Mario Kart 8, some garages in the Mario Kart Stadium track are fully modeled despite only being intended to be seen from afar. Moving the camera inside reveals empty office-like rooms reminiscent of the kind of imagery often called liminal spaces. In the intro to Super Mario 3D World, Bowser appears while halfway inside a clear pipe. The inside of the pipe is obscured with smoke, but extracting the model shows that Bowser's lower body was simply made into a tube to make animating him easier. The model is able to shrink to fit inside the pipe because the game uses a combination of shrinking Bowser and deforming the pipe itself to make it go quote-unquote around his upper body like a sleeve and then construct it again when it is fully out. In the intro to Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Luigi pretends to go ahead of the player but is always waiting just outside the screen for you to catch up. In fact, if you pay attention closely, the note blocks betray him. In Mario Galaxy 2, the Grandmaster Galaxy contains areas that change the skybox when Mario passes them. Exiting a skybox in an unintended direction, such as with the infinite flutter glitch, will suddenly make the background turn blue, reminiscent of the Windows blue screen of death. In the Mario Galaxy games, the area outside of the skybox is blue by default. This is normally impossible to see, as not only do skyboxes normally never unload, but they are infinitely far away, but this scenario allows it to be seen. It is possible, however, to fix the skybox by either using cheats to fly back or with the infinite flutter glitch, although you need a near task skill to even perform it. Doing so, you'll be able to enter the blue area and then fly back to the regular skybox. In Mario Kart Wii, the eye hidden behind Rosalina's hair always mirrors the visible eye. As such, whenever she looks to the side, the eye mirrors the outward motion and causes her to be wall-eyed. By cutting her hair, this can be made visible. The reason why the eye is modeled, even though most people are unlikely to see it, is likely because of some chance that it could be seen from a highly specific angle. Interestingly, almost all of Rosalina's appearances fully modeled the hidden eye, despite it never being seen. In Mario Kart Wii, there is an unused decorative Toad Mii NPC that was previously believed to be the unused model for Mii Outfit C that would have likely appeared outside of tracks to cheer on drivers. It only has one animation, performing a little dance. All Mii models in the game are supposed to load Miis from the console, so none of them are stored with any heads. However, this object is so unfinished, it doesn't even load a Mii head in-game, so a mock-up is needed to see what it would look like in action. The European Nintendo Switch Online version of Mario 64 contains an extremely bizarre bug where if you keep switching between levels in the stage select menu, the stages Cool Cool Mountain and Big Boo's Haunt will occasionally randomly swap O's and U's between each other, becoming Cool Cool Mootin and Big Boo's Hound. The reasons for this are unknown. In Mario 64 DS, the game can crash simply due to the player being too skillful. For example, if Yoshi eats a Lakitu and then manages to hit 3 enemies with that egg in the stage Rainbow Ride, the game will spawn so many coins that they overflow the object limit and the game crashes. There isn't an exact number for the object limit, there's just limited space in the heap for objects, meaning some objects take up more space in the memory than others. On the ledge above the princess's secret slide in Mario 64, if the camera mode is switched while Mario is sleeping, he will float through the ground in a reality-defining manner. This is a purely visual glitch and only works on the original N64 game and not any official re-release of it. The reason for this is due to coordinated overflow in the GPU. It was set to low range, high precision mode, and the camera on that edge while sleeping barely clips outside the range, causing this visual glitch. It can be seen more frequently in Mario 64 mods, but this is the only known instance of it being found in the regular game. In Paper Mario the Origami King, Koopa Troopas are explicitly religious, which is very rare for the Mario franchise. This might be a reference to an idea first proposed by Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES 32 years prior, whereby a Koopa Troopa was shown praying in the game's ending. In New Super Mario Bros. DS, Mario cannot use a Mega Mushroom in Toad houses. Assuming the Mega Mario form via hacking in these locations reveals that the special question blocks cannot be destroyed by it, and instead create a very peculiar infinite particle effect. It is possible that the design of the Jizo statues in in Super Mario Odyssey is based on a common misconception of Statue Mario's sprite from Super Mario Bros. 3, whereby his mustache appears to some people as a smile instead. In Super Mario World, letting Yoshi rest on top of a control coin block with the coins leading straight up and then pressing a P-switch will cause Yoshi to become abducted by the blocks, ascending off the top of the screen. This can be done in a completely unmodified game and is easily achievable in Star World Level 5. The reason this happens is because if Yoshi finds himself inside a solid block, the game will place him on top of the solid block. What happens in Star World Level 5 is that the process is repeating over and over because there's always a block above him. In most Mario games, donut blocks are semi-solid and thus cannot harm Mario by falling on him. However, in Mario 64, it squished Mario in addition to exploding when they hit the ground, which means they're actually able to kill him in the game. An official 1994 Japanese picture book based on Super Mario Land 2 contains a bizarre activity where Wario hid one of the 6 golden coins inside Yoshi's stomach, and Mario needs to traverse the entirety of Yoshi's digestive system to retrieve it. In Super Mario World, it is possible for Mario to steal Yoshi's wings. Normally, they send Yoshi and Mario to a bonus room while granting Yoshi wings. However, jumping off of Yoshi at the last moment will abandon him and make Mario fly to the bonus room all by himself. The reason this works is because the wings can be activated both by touching them and eating them with Yoshi, just like other power-ups. However, when eating them, there is a period of a few frames during which Mario can jump off, leading to this effect. In Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, the game revolves around the interaction of quote-unquote 3D characters from the quote-unquote real Mushroom Kingdom with flat paper characters. Ironically, however, they are internally implemented as the opposite, with the 2D characters being 3D models and the 3D characters being 2D sprites. At some points during Mario & Luigi Brothership, the brothers have a friendly coin collecting competition. During this, a rare glitch can occur whereby Luigi's score fails to display properly and HTML-like style tags become visible around it. This only appears to happen to Luigi. Development files for Yoshi's Island feature a graphics file containing only silhouettes. One of them depicts a large-headed humanoid referred to only as Mr. 777. Nothing else is known about this character, and neither his sprite nor his name appear anywhere else in the files. Mario Sunshine is the only 3D Mario game in which Mario gets tired of hanging from a ledge. After 17 seconds of holding on, he will start shaking uncontrollably and let go 3 seconds later. In the other games, he can hang from ledges indefinitely without any issue. The timer applies no matter whether he is moving or staying in place. The only way to reset the timer is to let go of the ledge. To illustrate the words lend and borrow, the officially licensed 1993 Super Mario Super English German English Dictionary depicts Mario as someone who constantly asks Peach to lend him money. A glitch in Donkey Kong Country 3 can make the game believe it is an illegal copy. You see, throwing a keg steel barrel at a Naka enemy in a specific spot will execute random code which may trigger the game's copy protection and make it display an anti-piracy warning. This glitch also applies to the NSO version of the game, although it is important to note that it can delete save data when performed. A widespread fraud has been reported recently across the United States, with Walmart, Best Buy, and Target being the most affected, whereby seemingly sealed Switch games, among them many Mario games, contain a googly eye instead of a game to mimic the cartridge rattling. It is possible this could be happening in other countries as well, however. There's only 2 ways to check if you're a victim of this situation. One, if a flashlight is used to shine through the plastic of the Switch case, it is possible to see the gold conductors on the bottom of the cartridge, which guarantees that a cartridge is inside, but not that it is the correct one, however. The second and best way to check is to unseal the game directly at a counter. While it is possible that some of these reports are pranks, there has been so many of them reported, with the earliest being in 2023, and the presence of return receipts all suggest that at least some of them are legitimately happening to a number of people. An obscure interaction in both Mario Galaxy games is that if Mario touches another power-up while under the influence of the Rainbow Star, it will fly away in a comically large arc. In Yoshi's Loves Me minigame in Mario 64 DS and New Super Mario Bros. DS, an event has a chance to happen if the game is played for long enough, whereby all the petals will fall fall off the flower immediately. While the loves me not text is not displayed, both Yoshi and the flower react as if it did. This is fully intentional, as internally this is programmed as a fifth state after loves me not, and the really variations, and specifically appears only after at least 60 games have been played and the last flower only had 1 or 2 petals. By complete coincidence, a sample comic from WarioWare DIY Showcase on the Wii appears to be notably close in its plot to popular online game Among Us, featuring an imposter among astronauts and the verbatim use of the phrase Among Us nearly a decade before the game was even released. In Luigi's Mansion Arcade, which is basically a on-rails shooter version of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, the game contains an ending cutscene that is absent from the original version of Dark Moon, whereby Luigi goes home satisfied after defeating King Boo, only to show that he forgot to actually save Mario from the painting he was imprisoned in. It occurs if you complete the nightmare/challenge mode in the game. In Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Goombas actually look at invisible blocks to provide a subtle hint on where they are to the player. In New Super Mario Bros. Wii, if the player jumps onto a moving block while under the influence of the star power-up, they may become stuck in a somersaulting state. As long as no further inputs are made, the player will keep somersaulting indefinitely even after the star power wears off. However, if a second player hits the block while the first player is like this, it will free the original player, as the player must be touching the block and otherwise not moving. If anything moves them, whether the player's input or collision with the environment or other objects, they will stop spinning. In Mario Super Sluggers, there is an item called the Mini Boo that makes the ball explode into boos, rendering it invisible for a short time. The item's default model in the files of the game stores all the boos clumped together, making them appear to look like some kind of deformed amalgamation. The official 2003 site for Popsicle Mimi's Ice Cream used the Super Mario 64 intro sound awkwardly cut off to make Mario say, "It's a me." As this was not a Nintendo collaboration, this sound was likely used without permission. In Mario Odyssey, a Pokio can actually destroy a metal crate by stabbing it with its beak 200 times in a row. In a row in this context refers to the crate unloading from memory, moving too far from the crate, entering a sub-area, or warping within Bowser's Kingdom, which is where most of these crates are located in, all reset the counter. In WarioWare Smooth Moves, the bungle micro game where the player must let the Wii remote fall was actually designed specifically to untwist the Wii remote wrist strap. You see, the game has a special code that always makes it appear directly after micro games where the strap might get twisted. In Mario Maker 2, there is actually a stray pixel near the top left corner of the Vine item. It is only visible in the underwater theme in the Mario World game style. The reason this happened is because the vines are actually part of the level tile set graphic file, which is different for each theme and style. This was not present in Mario Maker 1, so it must have accidentally been added to Mario Maker 2's graphics file after it was expanded to contain more items such as slope conveyor belts during the import process from the first game. In the original Super Mario Bros. For the NES, there is a pipe maze section in the final level, 8-4. An easy way to remember the correct path is, after starting the level and jumping over the first lava pit, take the pipe after the second lava pit in the same room and immediately after the lava pit in every room after. By slowing down the bomb explosions in Super Mario World, it actually becomes apparent that they are causing an implosion, concentrating inward, unlike most other games they appear in, such as Super Mario Bros. 3, where the explosion is correctly expanding outward. In Super Mario 64 on both the N64 and DS, drowning overrides other death animations. As such, if the player character dies from fall damage while about to swim, they will appear to be so bad at swimming that they drown immediately upon touching water. In Super Mario 64 on both the N64 and DS, boos have a certain minimum turning radius. If the player character is positioned at a precise distance away from a boo, it will try to go after the player but never be able to turn tightly enough to actually reach them. The boo will circle fruitlessly around the player forever. The way the swaying of the Daisy Cruiser course in Mario Kart Double Dash is accomplished is by simply keeping the ship stationary and swaying the world around it. This only happens in Mario Mario Kart Double Dash. As in every other game the course appears in, such as in Mario Kart 7, the ship no longer sways at all, so no tilting is being applied. On-stage copies of Super Mario 64 DS actually contain glitches that were fixed in later production runs, one of them being the Yoshi squash crash caused by eating a boo in water. You see, the next time Yoshi attempts to lick something, he will squish humorously and the game will crash. To determine if your game is a launch copy, check to see if your code is ASMEN0J20 on the back. If your copy has a code starting with ASMEN1, it's too late, and this glitch, among many others, are no longer possible to do. The Cake of Infinite Death glitch is an extremely tragic glitch in Mario Galaxy 1 that can be seen by reaching a Mission 3 launch star in Mission 1 of Toy Time Galaxy. This is only possible with Luigi, as Mario cannot jump far enough to reach the launch star in question. You see, Luigi will launch towards a cake but miss and be trapped in a death loop until his lives run out completely. This is possible due to entering the launch star on the wrong mission. The planetoid is only available in the low poly state that does not have the landing platforms, and even if it did, it does not have collision, so Luigi just falls through it. When you are first able to return to the starting area in Mario Sunshine Delfino Airstrip, there is a strolling Stu that is actually doomed to walk off the pier and die 14 seconds after the level loads. However, by moving quickly enough, it is possible to reach him before this happens and divert him from his path, saving his life. After being distracted once, the Stu no longer falls off and instead simply walks around the edge without falling. Of course, this only works until the level is exited or reset. In the Wii series games, Woohoo Island is committed to clean air by only allowing electric vehicles on it. However, in Mario Kart 7, where the island reappears as a track, gas vehicles are used in the races around the place, just like every other track in the game. This implies that the Mario crew made a deal with the Woohoo Island administration to receive exclusive pollution privileges. All colors of bananas from Donkey Kong 64 can actually be found in real life. Red bananas are slightly sweeter with a hint of raspberry compared to regular bananas. Green bananas, specifically cooking bananas, taste potato-like after cooking them. Blue bananas taste like vanilla but are not blue when edible, and purple bananas are completely inedible as they are toxic to humans. It is important to note, however, that real-life blue and purple bananas only have a subtle coloration and are either unripe or inedible, so it's important to beware of false images of cartoonishly saturated bananas spread across the internet. In Mario Kart Wii, the dancing piñata near the escalators in Coconut Mall actually serve a purpose. You see, they will actually turn towards the escalator currently moving upward and face forward when the escalators change directions, providing an additional visual indicator from afar for racers. In Mario Kart 7 and 8 Deluxe, where the track reappears, though the piñata is not needed anymore since the escalators have giant arrows on them showing the direction on where to go. In many of the modern Mario Kart games, the item roulette is a meaningless illusion meant to give the players a false sense of urgency over which items they get. In fact, in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe specifically, there's a debug mode that shows that the item is decided on the frame the player touches the item box, and the roulette is irrelevant. So whether you stop your item roulette early or not, you will get the same item regardless. This works the same way as many Mario Party games, where being able to stop the dice block at any point makes it look like the player has an input on what number they will get, while in reality that doesn't matter when you hit it, as you will get the same number no matter what. It is important to note, however, that you are able to stop the item roulette early in every Mario Kart game by pressing the respective item button, which in some games actually does have an influence on what item you get, such as in Mario Kart 64. In a cutscene before the final boss battle in Luigi's Mansion 3, Peach briefly deforms by severely elongating her neck. It is rather noticeable because although the maximum neck length lasts about 5 frames, the wind-up/retraction of the animation takes more than half a second. So if you happen to be looking at Peach at that moment, you can see it very clearly. The reason this happens might be because the animators wanted Peach's torso to bend down while keeping her head at the same angle, and decided elongating her neck would be the easiest way to accomplish this. Upon repeat playthroughs of Mario Odyssey, you may notice that the war paintings might have changed destinations. You see, the war paintings themselves actually depend on what answers Mario gives when asked by Cappy on what order to visit the kingdoms in. In the Goopy Inferno mission than in Mario Sunshine. One of the pinatas is an unexpected chuckster, a player who talks to him and happens to tilt the analog stick in an unfortunate direction after exiting the dialogue will make him throw Mario with enough momentum to kill him, especially if he is thrown in the lava. Now, if you do find yourself in a scenario where you land in the lava, it's best to go neutral on the control stick, as that will cause Mario to flip 180 degrees, and when you hit the control stick again, he'll start moving in the other direction. Doing this can allow you to save yourself before dying. The newer Luigi's Mansion games actually have a running theme of naming groups of 5 things in such a way that the first letters spell out the word ghost, at least in English. Some of these are obvious, such as all of the mansions in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, while others are a bit more subtle, like the 5 regular ghost types in Luigi's Mansion 3. You may have noticed that SNES Mario Circuit 3 appears more times in Mario Kart games than any other track. This is because development files for Super Mario Kart actually revealed that it was the first ever course made for the series. As such, the team likely has a sentimental attachment to it, even if newer developers didn't work on the original game. It's worth noting, however, if we count Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as 2 separate games, SNES Rainbow Road also shares this distinction, since it appears in both, whereas Mario Circuit 3 is only in the latter, thanks to the Booster Course Pass, which is also fitting since that track was the last one made in development order, when originally there was going to be a third Choco Island track before Nintendo decided to scrap it. Prior to Mario Kart World releasing, the Mope Mayhem minigame in Mario Party 8 was technically the Mario Racing game with the greatest amount of random generic characters in it. With the release of Mario Kart World, however, the rosters of the two can now be properly compared, with them sharing 20 characters together. Now, a few things to note, however. First of all, in Mope Mayhem, you can only play as the regular Mario Party 8 cast with the addition of your Mii. So you can't play as, say, Goomba in Mope Mayhem, but in Mario Kart World you can. And second of all, when I say random generic characters, I mean characters who are not identified except by the name of their species. For example, Mario's a human named Mario, making him unique, but Goomba is a Goomba only named as Goomba, making him generic. In Super Mario 3D World, the flowers actually dance to the music if you look close enough. In addition to having different movements for different parts of the song, they even have a tiny special dance for the 100 Seconds Left jingle. This feature technically began in New Super Mario Bros. For Nintendo DS, although it was mostly the Goombas and Koopas dancing with the music, though the mushroom platforms also did on the overworld map. Of course, Super Mario Bros. 3 for the NES also had dancing shrubs on the overworld map, but they weren't synced to the music like they are in the other games I mentioned. Internal names for WarioWare Inc. Mega Micro Games revealed that the developers named some micro games after games Nintendo doesn't actually have the rights to, but changed the spelling to avoid potential copyright issues if they were ever to get leaked. Some of the names include Backman, Dargon Quest, Eat Mania, along with many others. In New Super Mario Bros. DS, a relatively simple sequence of accidents can actually result in the game failing so spectacularly that it crashes even the eternal crash debugger meant to handle such situations. To do this yourself, go to World 6-2 and simply die after the checkpoint, and go back to the Sky Bonus Room. Get on the rightmost quested block and go left. Now press the sequence of buttons. L, R, A, left, then let go, down B, let go again, and then start and select to access the crash debugger menu. Now if you're worried if it will cause any damage to your system, this has been reproduced multiple times by people without any detectable lasting effects on the console, so it should be good. Well, that's gonna be it for this compilation video, guys. I hope you enjoyed, even if it was significantly shorter than the last random Nintendo Facts to Fall Asleep to compilation video, because that was like 2 hours. This is only an hour. For sure, I'm definitely gonna wait at least a year, but probably even more, to do these types of videos again. Also, I do want to say this video took longer than I would like to make because the last 2 videos had issues with me being able to download them on YouTube, so I had to use a different way to get them. YouTube, what the heck was going on there? But yeah, that's why it took longer than I would have liked to get out this video, but I hope you enjoyed nonetheless. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, play some Xenoblade, and I'll catch you all next time for more. Peace, bye everyone.